Welcome, everyone, to this special transmission with my beloved LightStar. Well, as you could see in the posts where I was advertising this show, I was talking about the beautiful connection that we both had in Sedona, Rise of the Guardians conference last March. And I do know it's not only because she translates codes and works with frequency in such an amazing way, and I do also use that tech, yet also the soul connection. And of course, everything is related. If we both connect in that way, it's because we have something going on in our origin that it's connected. But anyway, for the very first moment that I saw her, I felt this huge soul connection. And I feel that she feels in the same way, you will say now. But anyway, I'm so happy to share with you this transmission and talking about such an important topic in this stage of human evolution, a very fundamental tool inherent within each one of us and so important to activate, which is light codes, light language, and the use from a state of awareness of aware frequencies. So, having said this, welcome, Light Star.
Thank you for having me on. I'm so in gratitude to be here and to be with you. And yes, I felt the same thing when we connected first thing. And it was just a really, we didn't get to share as much as I would have liked because there's so much going on at the conference. And, we're all running around with our booths and trying to speak and everything. But I definitely felt that connection with both you and Sean as well. Like I really felt a very strong connection to both of you. And I actually feel like, I don't know, we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but I had a dream about 8 months prior to the conference. And I didn't know in the dream it was a woman and it looked, I'm not kidding, exactly like you. And she dropped down from the ship, from the Galactics. And it was, I didn't really put it together until I saw you at the conference. And I was just like, that's her. So in a way, I guess I already saw you coming in some way before it happened. And so it was just a really nice, pleasant surprise to connect. And yeah, I feel like, we're on the verge of some of us that do this kind of work, bring the light codes, bring the light language, and in other ways, in toning, you do the toning, I as well do that, and like music and activation, and it's so crucial right now. Now I'm not sure when you got started with it, but I know for me it was well, probably, I started when I was 9 speaking light language, but I didn't know what that was. But I think for the last decade and a half is about when I really started to lay it down with the 20 different languages and starting to do things differently with music. But how long have you been doing this?
Well, for me, it was right after I gave birth to my daughter. It's like it was a very interesting process because from an early stage of my childhood, I was very much connected with the light beings, all kind of beings, would come and
Hmm.
visit. But then I went into a state of an angel came and told me that I needed to close my third eye because I needed to go and integrate some things in this, like in that reality,
Hmm.
like pack up enough level of density to be able to sustain so much information coming through the codes because as you know it's tons of information that if you're not
Yeah.
in balance with the light and the shadow then it can
Yeah.
flip you over. So it was, let's say, like some kind of preparation.
Hmm.
And when I gave birth to my daughter, it was like even previous, like years previous, I
Hmm.
started speaking in other languages,
Hmm.
but it was in the beginning, it was ancient languages,
Yeah.
like Egyptian, like even Sumerian, like other types of. And when my daughter, I
Obviously, yeah, that's like a big part of
gave
who you are. So obviously there.
right? And yeah, then it opened up to, like cosmic language,
Hmm.
as you, I'm quite sure, like at once, like speaking 13 languages, first one, then another one, then another one, like,
Yeah.
yes.
It
Yeah,
gets a little, I remember having to, when a lot of them started to pour in all at once, it seems like I was getting them in the shower. I'm just like, whoa, like all this stuff was coming in and I had to stop and I had to record them all because it was just, I did, if you don't, I mean, for me, I had to record it because I didn't initially know what's their, coming from and the differences so that I could go back and then just backtrack it all and then trace them all back to where they were originating from. And that's how I kind of like had to do it because it was getting overwhelming, and
I
it was
know.
a little much even for my system. Nervous system usually will definitely get affected if you're bringing in too much, like all of a sudden, and you have to back off and then you got to integrate, for those of us that have sensitive nervous systems. And I know it was a process, for me to really not just understand what was going on, like with the languages, but to really see, like, I didn't just want to bring in languages for the sake of bringing them in. It wasn't like for me, it was more about what is this doing for people? How is this
Exactly.
shifting and how is it shifting me? And so a lot of it was just figuring out how I was going to be bringing it forth, which is different than everybody. Not everyone brings forth these light codes and light language in the same way or for the same purpose. And there's a lot of different ways to bring it through. And so that's a process, but it was a fun process, I would say. I at one point I was told I had 125 languages that were in my field, but I do not have that many in my 3D realm here just because, the compression was just so much. I was like, okay, I got to process the 20 that I have here. And, and then during that time I did. And then now it's kind of like the bandwidth opens up as I feel and I choose to want that to open up, for me, just because I know what I went through with processing it. And I'm like, I'm not doing it that way again. I want to be able to process it and integrate it in a way that feels comfortable. So it's not, shocking or, so that's how I integrate new languages. And I haven't had like a ton of them come through yet because of that, but slowly they are, coming in when I feel I want to open the bandwidth more.
Yeah, you have touched a couple of, like, a lot of important topics there. Like, for instance, a lot of people, when it's beginning, it's like it's just coming through, and sometimes they cannot stop it. And,
Yeah.
like, I know of people that just are like 1 hour, doing light language and they don't know what's happening, but they're just allowing it to be. For me, a lot, like, a lot of upgrades that I received was in the time when I was living in Egypt. Of course, I would go to the pyramids every day, to the temples every day, you know, like one day here, one day there, but always tuning into the frequency. And as you know, the technology that was used at that moment was precisely to enhance the frequency. Like someone can come that has not a polished tone, to say it somehow, and his voice or her voice will sound amazing, because the way that all the components
Echo.
of
Yeah.
the temple or the pyramid
Yeah.
are are actually harmonizing and
Yeah.
are creating
Yeah.
that beautiful weaving of the frequencies. And because the design itself of the structure has already the geometries that will welcome that sound and start shaping
Yeah.
it until you start to actually listen to yourself for the first time.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what you think about this, but I do know that it's very important for every one of us tune into their soul
Mhm.
voice or their soul frequency, because
Yes.
that can heal you immediately,
Yeah.
that can uplift you immediately. Is yet like recognizing to the very same sound that was emanated when you were given birth or when you were born into this reality,
Hmm.
because stargates aligned, portals open, and the sound that is emitted when you come into this reality is unique. And when you remember that, then that's actually, for me, one of the most powerful tools that we have.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with everything you said. And I have to tell you, there's relating a little bit about when I first started to do toning. Um, I remember because I do not have a singing voice. I do not have, I still don't have a singing voice. Like, I don't have that. It's not, and I never thought I would ever do that. Like, this was not something I ever even wanted to do, really. It's not like I ever had that desire. And when it started happening, of course, my voice is not always perfect pitch and all that, but I remember uh, the way I actually worked with it was I used crystal bowls, and I would start to tone with the crystal bowls just to see how it would resonate with the crystal bowls. But one day I went into there was a workout facility that I used to go into, and it was just a small room, but the acoustics in that room, and when no one was in there, because frequently nobody would be in there, I'd go in there and I would tone, and it just made my voice sound like so amazing. I was just like, whoa. But I know what you're saying. It wasn't Egypt, but it was the way that the acoustics were in there that
Exactly.
harmonized everything. I don't know what they did in there. It wasn't meant for that. But when I went in there, it was just, it really helped to align my voice somehow, because I could hear it the way that it was intended to really be. And then that actually helped me to further, I guess, fine tune or refine my voice a little bit more, because it wasn't, I knew it was never going to really be like a singing voice. I just knew that there was something that was supposed to happen with it, and I wasn't sure how to do that. But that's kind of funny because it's relating to what you're talking about, the acoustics, because I think that's so huge. And I think the one thing that I find the most when people are speaking light language at first, or they don't feel like they can speak light language more so, is because they get fearful, and that stops it right there.
Exactly.
That's like the biggest thing that we say. That's why you can't. It's not that you can't. You have it. Everyone has that. I call it the mother tongue. Somebody else might call it something else. You might call it something else. I just call it the mother tongue, which is the one that's originally, you have that innately. So you may not speak like 25 or whatever, but you might, but everyone speaks that one. Everyone has that voice. And so when
Yeah.
they don't or can't, it's because you have the fear of what other people will think and of your own power. These are two things. Like you're afraid whether people are going to think of you when you do it, and then you're afraid when it comes out, your own power. Because I had that. That's what it
Yeah.
came out, and I was afraid of it at first, right? I think everybody goes through that when they're first doing toning or light language. You're like, oh my God, what is that? and I would get these chills down my spine when I would speak it, and I didn't really, it's like, whoa. And I felt myself retracting it back in the beginning, because I was like, no, 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 no. And some of us have these memories that, ancient memories of when we maybe used our voice, and it was either manipulated, or we used it and something bad happened, because the voice was used a lot more than it is now,
Yeah.
and something happened. And so then we retract it back, because when we start to bring it out again in this life, then it's like the cellular memory kicks in and goes, oh no, you're not doing that again. And that kind of thing happens a lot. But, it's something that is innately a part of all of us. I mean, we are that. We are the codes, right? We are the codes. That's how we become into form here. So it's like naturally a part of us. And I think some of us have just gotten the call, like you and like me and some others that do this kind of work. We got the call to come and bring it to the planet. I know when I was doing this initially, I didn't know anyone else that was really doing. I knew a couple of other people that were doing it, but that was it. And now it's just exploded,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody doing this kind of work, and which is good because it gets more out there on the planet, but it wasn't initially.
Yeah, I fully agree. Like I remember when I began, like also um parallelly to the path of remembrance, and nobody would do codes. Nobody would speak light language, and everybody would look at like, is she doing witchcraft? Is she doing, like, what
Yeah.
are the purpose of those symbols?
Yeah.
And I was in that path of remembrance. So I was like, okay, I know that the space where I'm coming from is pure love.
Yeah.
And I know it's very powerful because in some people, if they are not coming from the space of love, it triggers exponentially, like if people
Huge.
is not coming from a space of love and they see a code,
Mhm.
it can trigger the shadow of them, but it's not
Yeah.
the code. The code is doing its technology. It's just I do believe that codes, one of the main things that they all share is that they will, even though each one can have a purpose, as we are talking about the universal language, which is the geometry, and of course all the grading, which is the motion within the very same space-time geometry. What they are doing is, okay, so you vessel, so let's say biological vessel, you want to tune into me. Okay, so then this is what is not allowing you to connect with me. This is what is not allowing you. So, okay, I need to come through. I need to come through. And all of the things that are limiting will start to be released. And
Mhm.
the more that you hold to them, the less, the more chaos that it could generate. But if you just flow, it's going to be a huge communion of love and harmony. This
Mhm.
is why I love codes, because it's using the advanced technology that we were given as multidimensional beings. And the only fact, when you start using it, you're stepping up and you're stepping up. And as you were saying, sometimes stepping up into our power can create a lot of fear. Why? Because
Mhm.
that represents that sometimes you might feel alone, you might feel not accepted by, you might feel judged, and so forth. But in the end and in the beginning, if you're not being yourself, then you're already feeling alone. And this goes for everyone who is beginning this path or that at sometimes still feels that way, because that's the illusion, believing that we belong somewhere if we are not being ourselves. We are meant to show who we truly are in order to create the true resonance, the clear resonance that will lead us to be at the right place with the right people and at the right moment. And this is what the codes are. our pure coherence.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, I wanted to ask you, for instance, if you want to start speaking, for instance, Syrian, you just start doing it, or Pleiadian or
Mhm.
Arcturian or so forth.
Yeah, when I started to bring out languages, one thing I noticed is that my languages aren't necessarily, I mean, occasionally they can be channeling or quote channeling a being of some kind coming from there. But generally speaking, it's like the collective constellation transmission energy is what I'm bringing through. And then occasionally, like when I speak dragon or I have my Valion, the wisdom keeper coming in, that's actually a being, so it depends on what I'm actually bringing through. But generally, it's like, yeah, if I'm going to tune in, and like the Arcturians will always bring a transmission, but then recently they start to bring their language blended with a transmission. So that's kind of coupled in there. And yet, I don't now, I can pretty much just go like that because I've been doing it for a while now, that I just shift into pretty quickly the energy of that. And I don't always know sometimes before I'm bringing it what I'm going to bring in. But if I do want to bring in a certain one, then I can pretty much quickly, do that. But when I started, I think it's really important for everybody to do this. If you're starting, is to place a lot of your higher team around you, your angelic team, or whatever feels right to you, just to clear the energy field, because these beings and it's like darker beings like get attracted to it, almost like, oh good, she's speaking language, she doesn't know what's going on, and so I can just jump in, right? So they just like have these jumper energies that like to come in. And so that's why it's super important to clear and put your field up just as much as you would when you're just channeling, verbal language, or just, channeling a being or angel or ascended master. You're always going to want to put that above you, but particularly with light language, because when you're speaking channeling from ascended master, what you're saying. You might be away or look, whatever, you're co-channeling, for instance, you're speaking your language. Okay. But light language is different because you don't always know. And so I do think it's important to put that around you, as anybody who's doing that first, before you start to bring in anything. But then, yes, I can tune into Arcturian or Lyran or, Syrian or whatever, Lysyrian. Like I can tune into the different blends of some of them that I can just start speaking. And generally, when I first started doing this, I would want to translate because I know that I can. But when I started to do that, I got very strong guidance from my team to say, stop doing that. And I was like, well, why? Because everyone wants to know what it is. They said, because light language it's really from a soul language. So when people try
Exactly.
to assimilate it, and it's not that they won't get their own, interpretation of what I'm saying. And that's the whole point, is that everyone might get something different. So let them receive what is meant to receive, rather than you telling them this is what this means. But that's only for the time of the bridge, because they said that will return to where you will come back to do some more of the translation. It's just that in this interim decade and a half, really, let people experience it first, so that they, without so much of the interpretation. I know
Yeah.
there's one phrase that Orion gave me that was a word for word interpretation. It's just a phrase that they gave me, but infrequently that will happen. And so in a way, I've been sort of like chomping at the bit to try to do an interpretation, but I back off and I just go, whatever, let it be. And then I will always give a overall of what has come through, or what feels like it came through. Not like word for word, but I'll kind of give just this is what I feel was coming through kind of thing. But I won't really go into massive translations. I mean, I know that I'm doing this, and I'm sure you are. I don't know about you, but like I've had dreams of myself, seeing these I don't know, look like tablets of code and inscriptions and glyphs and symbols. And I was called in to actually do translation of this. So I know I'm doing this in another realm, like, because I've had many dreams like that, of like,
Mm,
Indiana Jones dreams. I don't know, but it was like
yeah.
this very, just very specific inscription and all that. So I know I'm doing it there. And it's maybe going to come back in a different form this way, but I feel like, yeah, there's a longer answer to, I guess, being able to just speak and go, like, and do it on command. But generally I can do that now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, for instance, every time that people ask me about the the light language, what I say is that one of the biggest, let's say, benefits of it and why it's so powerful, it's because you don't get to bring your ego.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this means this. Oh, okay. Am I? And then leading you to another process of thinking, and then a memory, and then
Yeah. It
you're
bypasses
just
the
receiving.
analytical. Yeah.
Exactly. Like you're not interpreting every word and then
Mhm.
leading you to a memory and then forgetting the full focus or losing the full focus of receiving.
Yeah.
You're just receiving a shower of frequencies that you have no idea what it means. And you're just saying, okay, I don't understand anything, but it sounds beautiful. I'm onto, like, at some level, fully comprehending it.
Yep.
And for me as well, when I was saying, because people would ask me, and what does this mean? And what does this mean? Of course, it's natural, even me, like I
Yeah.
was, okay. Well, actually, I wasn't that curious because I know that the purpose was that. But at some point, what happened to me is that I would repeat very specific words,
Mhm.
like what I was
Yeah.
really tuning into is where that language came from.
Yeah.
Because I would feel, okay, this is ancient Egyptian, okay, this is the Sumerian, okay, this is Mayan, okay, or this is Pleiadian, Syrian, or like from wherever. And because one of the things that I enjoy the most is how the light language plays with the frequencies.
Yeah.
How some of them are so subtle that it's
Yeah.
like you're caressing the air, and then and you feel how it's shaping and how it's going directly into the people and to the
Mhm.
person's field. And it's beautiful to see how each one of them acts in at a different level. And then then I say, okay, so this kind of technology comes from that race. Okay,
Mhm.
so then I start remembering, okay, so they act in this form and in this form. But what I was very, in the beginning, what I would love is that some of the words that I would keep on repeating, then I would run into, okay, this is Mayan and this means this. And I was like, okay. Like, for instance, recently I it was discovered one of the main codes that I translated like 7 years ago. They have found it in ancient relics,
Oh, wow.
for the first time. And I was like,
Oh, wow.
like, uh okay,
Beautiful.
I need to see, like when they were excavating it. But
Yes.
then they sent to me, like all the videos. And then it turns out that the name that I gave to that symbol, which is the omnivision key, and the name is HUNUH.
No, that's why you put that on your everything, right? At the bottom.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, exactly. It means Hun, which is one,
Mhm.
and is house. So it's the house of one,
That makes
and
sense.
even it's a mirror.
Yeah.
It's a mirror because it's written, it's a palindrome, so it's a portal. And yeah, and those things that you can see how fragile reality is. And when you tune into those dimensions, those realms, you are just pulling in the strings that come to
Mhm.
materialize in this reality. And in this reality, you would feel it due to the matter, like so heavy. But from other realms, it's like boom, 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 boom,
Yes.
boom, boom, you know?
It's really powerful when you, that's amazing that you found that, or the code that came to you, it came to you, and we're, to remember all of that. So it's really powerful. Wow. Um, oh, someone has a question, right? Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Is
It
light
says,
language a constant stream, like a current that is tapped into, or individual specific message? Yeah, I would say, from my perspective on that, it is like a current. It is like that. It is like a stream, a current that comes in, and it's always there for everybody to tap into because it's part of who we are. So that part of it is always there. But when it comes through to, like, four people could be here, whatever, like four people, and then each one is going to receive something different from that particular message. So it becomes a specific message, a specific code or encodement directly for those four people. There's more people than that. I'm just saying, if it is, each person is going to receive something unique and different from that particular message. That stream almost opens up like it's like, imagine like a big filter, right? That comes in, like the wide end of a filter up here is all this bandwidth of codes, all of the stream. And then when it comes through a person, if they're speaking light language, it attunes with their alignment, that person's resonance, that person's codic, codices and everything. And then when it comes back out to the world or wherever, whoever you're doing, whatever you're doing with it, it will go out and reverberate. For me, it's like a tuning fork, and it just goes out to each person individually, and it is received for them individually. That's what's so unique about it, because language like French, German, English, Spanish, you speak it and it's one interpretation, pretty much. Like, that's for everybody. But light language gets a very different experience of it, where it could be unique for everyone that receives it. That's why it's so powerful in that. That's from my perspective anyway. What about you?
I agree. Let's say that frequencies are infinitely coming through the field. And when we are generating more resonance with those frequencies, then we're capable to transmit them in a, let's say, language form. And the more that we actually receive them, because I also do believe that in order to transmit that the light language, the heart is the receptor,
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
because then again, you have proven that you're not coming from a space of fear anymore.
Mhm.
Like what would they say? Or you're just being, that messenger of those frequencies. And one of the things that I to know about the light language is that, as I was saying, it's shaping the matter.
Mhm.
It's shaping the matter because it has it has, of course, a purpose. The purpose is creating harmony at different gradients. Aside of that, it has no agenda, like no absolute truth. And this is where, for me, when it comes to a unified language,
Mhm.
because then we cannot get it wrong when we are receiving it from the heart,
Yeah.
you know? And also for people to actually stay and receive the full transmission, their heart is open.
Mhm.
Otherwise, people will get frustrated and say, like, I'm not getting this, which actually, from my experience, it has never happened. Like something happens in the field
Mhm.
that even you can have skeptic people, and they just the field unifies for
Mm-hmm.
that moment, and the emission is being so coherent that you're just streaming that. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, even sometimes I'm listening to something that really activates codes in me, and I'm just start speaking light language, and I know that I'm configuring something.
Yeah.
Um, and also for the ones that are starting to feel the calling or the transmission, from my experience, I suggest every time that you want to configure something, like even restoring something or aligning yourself, if you do light language, even to manifest, if you do light language, then you're bringing the pure frequency from the heart to do that. You're not bringing in the ego, like, oh, did I said it correctly? Did it came through? Did I use the right words? No, it's just coming through, you know.
However it comes through. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And we are being childs, like it's like the gibberish, when a child is
Oh,
just
I know. I think I said this from a long time ago. I was like, I'm telling you, babies are the ones that come in with light language. They just come in with it, and we think it's. I have done this a couple times on like teaching something, but I showed like a video where two babies or young ones that are talking to each other, and if you've ever seen them, they're like, the Donna man, no, not Johnny. And the other one's like, the Donna man, not. And they know exactly what they're saying. They like, how do they know? Okay, because that's a perfect example. I've always said that. Like, I'm like, we come in with this, but then we start getting, you have to learn English, you have to learn, and you forget about, and we have to communicate with each other with different languages that we learn. And then we forget that we had that original ability, even though I get it, like they're just babies and they're learning and they're just, but they do dialogue with each other in the same kind of way that we speak language. So there's got to be something going on there. It just has to be, and I've always felt that. So I feel like we're moving into a very interesting time, in our world right now, where this is becoming more, known. It's becoming more accepted in a way. And I do feel like some languages I've noticed, like when I first started to do this, I have, tons of activations on my channel. And so when I was doing this, I noticed that there would be, at first I didn't even know, like I didn't know this would be affecting people, but that was kind of my mirror, was that everybody started coming back on the channel going, oh my God, that was so amazing. Oh my gosh, I felt this. And I was like, okay, this is really doing something, right? This is kind of a feedback that I got from
Yeah.
that. But I would find that maybe somebody didn't really feel something that much from one language, but then another one was like, whoa, like they really felt it. And I noticed that happened to some people, where I was like, okay, well, why would that happen? It's like, well, it's that person's experience too. It has a lot to do with their experience. They may have been from that place, or they may have a connection, or just open up. That's the codes that they need for right now. And that's the one, the other ones, maybe they don't need them as much. Maybe they already have it, but like, that's why they don't feel it as much. And then you go to one where it's like, whoa, it feels like this whole, heart opening, expansion coming in, and all this different integration has to come in for that. Or maybe there's some new codes in there. So I have seen that happen with, in my experience in the past. And at first, another thing I saw happening, which didn't make sense to me at first, and I really had to sit with it, is where I've had some people say, like, for example, Pleiadian, for one, that really comes up a lot. I know why now, but Pleiadian, like if I speak it, and then some people have said, I don't know why, but I just have an adverse reaction, like a negative reaction to it. And when I started to look into this further, I realized that, if we go back into the galactic wars, which, I mean, I'm not going to go there, all of that, but it's just a mess, right? Giant, you
Yeah.
know, S
Yes.
show of just everything that happened. And everyone was getting, it's almost like a lot of the Pleiadians even got, went to the dark. Not all of them, but like I'm just saying, there's a group of regressives that in every single race almost, except for a few that don't really do that. But there's a few, especially Orion. Okay, I love Orions, love Orion energy because it's the original. I call them the original Orions, but they were so powerful that that's why they got hijacked a lot because of their power. So there's that. But the Pleiadian language or something, and someone would have this like visceral, like, this not good reaction. And I realized that they had some interactions with some of those negative regressive Pleiadians. And so when they hear it, it's just like this instant repelling. And so what does that mean? That means that there's healing to do beyond that, right? There's healing to move on to beyond that in multidimensional speaking. You know, it's not always something you're totally aware of consciously in this incarnation. It's generally something that's going to be multidimensional or galactic experience that you had. But I was starting to see that it happened, you know, not a ton, but it did happen enough to where I got the questions and I'm like, okay, that's what I found when I looked into that. It was very interesting, but that's what shows the different kinds of reactions that people can have. Maybe they're not always like pristine and like, oh, you know, perfect. And that's okay too, but it's healing nonetheless, because it's bringing something in for your awareness for you to look at and for you to see like, what is this about and why, and how can I, you know, move on from that and heal it? And so, yeah, that was just, it's very interesting things that come up about that. But I think generally speaking, one of the things I noticed too was when I was doing my light language or my toning or something on stage or whatever at a presentation, I started to notice there was a difference or shift in how I was also emanating the languages and codes too, as well. And I started to really see myself more as a tuning fork, where the language comes in, wherever it's a constellation, the activation, the codes, they come in, they almost hit my body like the tuning fork that you go, dong, and then it goes like out to everyone in the way that they need to receive it. And that, to me, when that happened, that made sense to me. It's like everything just, I don't know, came together. I was feeling a lot when I was doing it. It's like the bandwidth opened up wider for that because there was more people there to experience it rather than just my one-on-ones, you know, in private sessions. So I felt like it was like a totally different way. And the tuning fork was the best way I could describe it as to what was happening. And I felt it, you know, where it just would go through my body. And I, like, if you were a tuning fork and someone hit you to get that note going or to get it to reverberate, you'd be like buzzing, you know, yourself. And that's kind of what happens, or that's what it feels like. You go into a alternate state in a way, and you just let yourself be the vessel for whatever good, you know, things are coming out of it, like the tuning fork to heal. So very interesting.
Yeah, for instance, for me, when I receive upgrades, it's like I can barely speak. You know, it's like things started happening in my throat, and then, you know, like it's like 2 times, it's like not being literally able to speak because I started coughing, and then after that happens, it's like, you know, like a huge expansion. When I do those transmissions, as you said, it's that buzzing, and actually, I love to see how it's playing with my own biology, you know, and opening a space for itself, and then going through all the layers of my biology, you know, organs, and even the energetic body and so forth. I love it because, again, as I was saying, for me, one of the biggest tasks that we are being required to do is to reconnect with the frequency of our soul. You know, like each one of us, because no one can do this for you.
Exactly.
And for me, it's like a way to actually open up to that channel with your own soul from another level, because of course you're already connected, but it's just opening to the wide band, to say it somehow, to the wide range. And and it's claiming your sovereignty. You know,
Yeah.
it's like for me, it's fundamental to do that. Another thing is that, for instance, I remember also when I was going to the pyramid, I would mainly be chanting. At some point, people would come and give me tips, thinking that I was working there.
That's hilarious. They're like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, then I can work at this, you know? It's like
Yeah.
they were already considering me part of the staff, so that was so funny.
Well, I
And
can see
even
that totally. I can totally see that. Oh my gosh. Especially the way you look too, because you look like you fit there. Like you're just like, oh, it's part of
part
the
of the yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, even at some point, people like would reach out to me to get healings there in the very same pyramid or record me. And
Mm-hmm.
even one day, there was a man, a Muslim man, that
Mm-hmm.
started praying while I was
Oh wow.
chanting.
Yeah.
But it was, like this communion, not
Yeah.
like saying, hey, this is sacred, you need to surrender. No, it
Yeah.
was more like merging codes
Mm-hmm.
that was super
That
powerful.
is that's powerful.
Super, super
Well,
powerful.
I mean, there's no
So,
more powerful place than to do that in the pyramids, like in Egypt, where a lot of these things exist. A lot of the codes are there and need to be reactivated. Well, a lot of them are being reactivated anyway from all the people like yourself that are going there to reclaim themselves, but also to reactivate the ley lines and the grid points right there.
yes.
It's a big
Yeah.
part.
Yes, and I do believe that at some point humanity is also being called to restore light language as the main vehicle of communication. You can see it with the Incas, the Icaros. Like the priests, the Incas priests
Mm-hmm.
start speaking the Icaros, which is like they start talking to the rocks. So they
Yeah.
start,
Yeah.
like a very
Yeah.
native as well. And this has
Well,
been
they say it
happening
too.
for a
That's like
while.
what do they call it? The Native American Indians call it spirit speak. That's it's the
There
same
you go.
similar concept. And a lot of people do say, well, what about the Christian faith that's like speaking in tongues, right? It's really similar. And I always say the mother tongue, or you might call it the universal, whatever the mother tongue universal, is very similar to that Christian faith speaking of tongues as well. It's that native language to spirit, to God, creator, whatever. That's your innate language there. So it is very similar in a lot of different cultures that do this, from shamanic to galactic to native, beings in Peru, like wherever these different beings are, they are all in a sense doing that, like communing in a way that goes beyond specific languages, like because it bypasses so much. I always say like language, trying to like interpret these light languages is about like one of the other reasons why it's not a good idea to do that for right now is you have all these codes that are like huge, like golden nuggets of all this yumminess from the creator source, huge God directly, whatever. And then it's coming down into your crown area, whatnot. And it comes down. And if you let it not start diluting and start interpreting, then that gives the full totality of what was meant to come through, because once you start to analyze it, get the mind involved in like language, what does that mean? It somewhat dilutes the entire original message. Doesn't mean you won't get something from it, but if you do start doing that, it does tend to dilute it. In my view, it just dilutes the message
Yeah.
because the message wasn't meant to be like taken into and breaking apart and like, oh, what does that mean? Or what's that? It's really meant to just experience with your biology, your cellular structure, your heart, your energy, your frequency, your resonance, like all of it, to be in harmonic resonance or to restore the harmonic resonance that you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of which, restoring the harmonic resonance, what I have been tuning into is that, for instance, when we talk about, you mentioned Orion, you mentioned, Pleiadians and so forth. For me, in relation to the code that I told you that I translated 7 years ago,
Hmm.
for me, the huge message is that us being the past for them, like for instance, you have the Dakoru, which is ourselves, how I see it,
Yeah.
like coming from a ninth density. So they are, like communicating with us so that from this spatiotemporal constant, we start
Hmm.
restoring huge, like a huge field, a
Hmm.
huge matrix that will actually have a ripple effect until their spatiotemporal constant, because then, as we know, like nonlinear time, where
Yeah.
we will be coming from, it's now we will be actually supporting us because we will get it sooner,
Yeah.
and then that can actually shift a lot.
Hmm.
Because, for instance, like them um, planting all those artifacts here and having a very specific time clock. And all of those artifacts have the light language, not only cuneiform, they have light language, they have, like star systems, they have everything. So it's like a field that is activating at once. And you
Yeah.
might ask yourself why? Because precisely from this bridge that we have reached now, we are going to be emitting this huge field of resonance in
Hmm.
alignment to that unified consciousness, and then emitting all of that frequency there to a very specific spatiotemporal constant even before a chaos is generated, because
Yeah.
we are that powerful.
Yeah.
Because like, what if, this process of coming to Earth and experiencing all of this was not perfectly as well planned for us to be the ones
Yeah.
that actually create
Yeah.
a ripple effect there, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, we don't know the grand plan of scheme things, we don't know how it shifts and changes and all of that. You brought up something that I want to ask you, okay? Because this is something I feel is really important. Um, well, it's something that I've always felt, but I don't study this stuff probably as much as you do. I don't go into do heavy research and stuff with things, but I have felt this, okay, with the emerald tablets, the emerald tablets everyone talks about. When I first saw the emerald tablets, at least a picture of it or something innately hit with me. And I felt like energetically that, how I guess after that I saw that, oh, they were translated by this person, Dr. somebody, Doral, I think it was, or something that came with the translation. And I felt like it was wrong. And I was like, okay, I don't know anything, but I'm just like, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right that that's what the translation is. And I felt like the translation isn't translation. It's actually supposed to be utilized with your entire form. Like there's an energetic resonance that is supposed to happen. You may or may not have the DNA codes or sequences to be able to activate it. I don't know, but it feels like there's more. And it feels like it's not supposed to be translated partially in the way that it was translated, rather that it's an actual living tool, an actual living resonance harmonic kind of thing. Don't know exactly what it does, except for, it's probably a spiritual type of experience that you would get from it. But that's just what I've always felt. And I always wonder, since you may have done a little more research on it, perhaps, like, what's your feeling on it? And I'm okay if it's wrong that I'm saying that. No, it's just translated. I'm like, okay, but I just felt there was something
Oh,
more to it.
well, thank you for bringing that up, because actually, like it says that there are more emerald tablets than what they have found so far. And it's very interesting how people settles down for saying, okay, these are the emerald tablets and this
Yeah.
is what they say. Yeah, what about the rest? How can you get a full message if you don't have the totality? This is where we're coming from, like that, knowing a one-fourth of the information and not being told that
Right.
that's the
That's
totality,
it. Yeah. That's all
and
there is. Like, Really?
Exactly. So, that part that you're saying about an inner integration, or like some specific people could activate it or
Mhm.
perhaps not. How I feel is like each one of the emerald tablets are embedded in our energetic field, in our energetic body, holographic body, within this reality, at least. As soon as we approach into this reality, then the holographic vessel that is given
Yeah.
to us has embedded those codes. Why? Because those codes of the emerald tablets are very much related to the creation of humanity and this
Mhm.
reality as well. So each one of those codes, let's say you can take it in account due to the number of angles that the letters have, due to
Mhm.
the motion that they generate. They're actually even embedded in very specific points of our holographic body. You
Yeah.
can relate it to the meridians, you can relate it to the chakras, you can relate it to the dantians, or you can even relate it just to non-localized points that are
Mhm.
actually connecting us and bridging us into the quantum field. Nevertheless, this is why some of them were taken, and but that doesn't mean that we cannot tune into them. And so, again, thank you for bringing this up, because I
Yeah.
know that also a lot has been told about Tot Tehuti and were his intentions,
Yeah.
what was his agenda and so forth.
Yeah.
But again, taking into considerations all the gaps that there
Mhm.
are in the
Yeah, and the
story
not
of human
non-truths.
evolution.
Yeah, the
Exactly.
misinterpretations.
Exactly. What I do feel is that the biggest weapon that they have tried to plant on us is being against whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying boundaries. Boundaries are super important, as you were saying.
Yeah.
You're transmitting, you're being a channel, put your boundaries.
Right.
Create your safe space. But that's different than being against, because being against even actually amplifies the pull that you're in, which you're bringing in the
Yeah.
force that you are not connecting with.
Yeah.
So, for instance, again, in relation, or having as an example, the emerald tablets and thought, we know that thought was very much immersed in human
Mhm.
evolution at the very first stages. We know that he shared a lot of golden nuggets of
Mhm.
wisdom, of how to master this reality. I just think that the more that we just allow ourselves to tune into the information, then we can make a choice,
Yeah.
but now coming from a space of knowingness, so
Yeah, and
yeah.
as people tune into it, literally with their own body and their own frequency, and that's where I feel the message really is in the deeper layers of that versus just on face value with what it is. It's been it's a mystery, right, to a lot of us, but I think a lot of us also were in that time period in our incarnations and had our own experiences with it that is quite different than what is being portrayed out there right now. So,
Exactly.
my feeling on it is just tuning into it and feeling what you feel from it is more important than what is being told. But that's the case with everything, right? Because everything feels like a lie right now in terms of everything we're being told. Well, you can't always go with that. You have to go, you can't go with face value. And we're seeing a lot of distortion energies that are happening in our field and not in our world as well. And, particularly in relation to codes and glyphs and symbols, we have had such distortion in our in those areas, like our symbols that are pure symbols, okay, like if you're say like flower of life or the golden spiral or all these different Metatron's cubes gotten a big, everyone's like, oh, it's distorted now it's like evil and all this stuff, and you're like, look, I said this to someone, I said this the other day, I was like, if you let distortion energy like that, if you let that, and believe it and start to, then it was going to be true for you. that doesn't, just because someone's putting a hex on one symbol doesn't mean that your energy cannot clear that, or that it's not even true for you. And so, because I noticed this when I started putting, I'm putting these codes into my art and everything like that, and someone would go, oh, that's the pedo symbol, whatever. Like, and I'm like,
Yeah,
no, it's not.
I know.
Okay. But energetically, if that's coming from the fear and the mass distortion that is coming from those, I have had dreams about this several times, that yes, there are things being done to our symbols to make them unpure, the symbols that we love. But I still use them because I know that the pure energy comes through that, and I'm not emanating that, evil stuff. So it doesn't really, like, I just think it's a joke, actually. But I understand that people get very, get excited about it. They get fearful about it, and, don't want to look at a symbol now because it's got like this evil, like, connotation to it. But I'm like, does it really though? That's my question, is
Exactly.
like, okay, does it really? When you look at that, it's like, besides you put your fear aside, are you really feeling that? Or are you just, that's just in your head, and now you think that, and now it's coming true for you? Because at the
Ex-
base of it, it's really pure. The pure symbols that we have, we're always pure. And that's like saying, like, all the glyphs and symbols, we're going to start seeing a lot more of those, probably from me and from you and from the world. Glyphs and symbols are coming
Yes.
back onto the planet right now in a big way.
Yes.
And you're going to start seeing
Yes.
more and more and more. And so you can't just be
Yes.
like, oh, that's evil. Oh,
Yes.
that's evil. Well, it's like, that's not true. I,
Yeah, it's like, for instance, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's um like the last crop circle, the
yeah.
spider. Like, a lot of people have issues with spider, but for
Yeah.
me, an egregor has been created precisely
Mm-hmm.
to make them forget about the weaver nature that we have, and create matrices, create
I know.
realities.
I'm
So
one of
I'm
those, though. I
actually,
have to say, I don't really like spiders, but I understand that. But the premise behind it is the creation energy. I mean, if I'm a creator, so I have to be like, okay with that energy, because it's the web and it's the creation weaving. So, but I don't
and
like
for instance,
I,
I know, but for me, that was no, and I have very powerful sisters, friends that I adore.
yeah,
And due to that very same power, it's like this egregor was imprinted. This is
yeah,
what I have tuned into, was imprinted to not connect with the spirit
yeah,
of that animal, of that founder. And
yeah.
actually, it's crucial. If we are, for instance, you weave all the time
I
with
know.
the clothes, with it's a
Totally.
network, like you do it inherently. So
Same with snake. Same with snake energy, I bet too, because that's like a power symbol. But so much of us are like afraid of snakes, and rightly so. If you're like going to get bitten by one, yeah. But I think there's a lot more to it. When we start to realize these power animals, that have so much to say, they have so many messages for us, and I know
yeah.
that that's so important. But yeah, spider and snakes are like big ones, right, for people.
Yeah,
Scorpions.
because for me, those are the ones that have been highly torsioned.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
once you master them, then boom,
Probably
like you
same with
connect with the purity.
scorpion energy out here in the in the desert. Scorpion energy too can cause a lot of fear and all of that. And yet, if you look at what the scorpion represents, it's a lot more interesting to look at it that way. Like medicine. Well, obviously the Native Americans, they looked at all of that. All the animal medicines out there that we have on the planet. And it's very
Yes.
important for us to kind of get past it. Plus, I think the spider energy comes from some of our past lives and other galactic lives, giant spiders, for example, and things of that nature that have been embedded into our psyche that way. And they just have to be unraveled. I try to do that now, where I'm like, if I see one, I'm not as apt to freak out as much as I was, as I used to, because I'm kind of getting a little better at that, and just let it be. It's part of creation. Don't, If it's the Black Widow, maybe I need to get it outside, you know, carefully. Carefully. You know, I'm going to be like, okay, those ones, maybe not so much, but the others, allow it to be. You know, we have all that stuff out here too. We have snakes, scorpions, Black Widows, like all that stuff we have to be out here. And it just triggers a lot of us, and from different reasons. Like I said, past lives, just our own like fear from everybody else.
Oh, I don't know. Perhaps she will join right now. It seems like she hit a very specific note. But anyway, yeah, here she is. I knew it.
Oh, sorry about that. We got disconnected just for a second, but I'm back. See,
Yeah.
spider energy made me go away. Just kidding. Anyway.
Yeah, no, but you know, and speaking of you know, the symbols, you it's like, hey, the flower of life
Yeah.
is embedded in the first 8 original cells that we create, you know? So I do believe that part of the plot has also been in filtering those kind of fear codes, and
Yeah.
that came through the new age, you know, like what, and by new age, I just want to make it clear, you know, like all this polarization of good, 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 and, you know, like without integrating everything as a wholeness, you know, which is different from light and shadow, you know. I'm just saying, like, good, good, good. It would be like a form of religion just turned into, instead of the name of religion being a spirituality. But,
Yeah.
you know, and they have casted away, you know, like crucified the flower of life, the Metatrans cube, all those figures that you said. And the thing is that, from how I experience it, information is just information. You give it
You
the
give it your
intention.
own intention, your own focus, and that is what makes this different. That makes the difference. It makes all the difference. So that's why it's so
Exactly.
important for everybody to not freak out about all that stuff with the symbols as much, because it's really not about that, you know. I mean, we've even heard the Nazi symbol was that was a positive symbol to begin with, and it got, look at how distorted
Exactly.
that got. You know, it's just, so it's kind of crazy.
Exactly. It gives you a hint how powerful symbols
Yeah,
are,
they can
how
be.
powerful codes are, and that this is why very specific secret or non-secret groups use all the symbols, because there are portals. They can, the thing again is because as you're not thinking about it, and they are geometries, or they are embedded in the space-time geometries.
Phew,
Bless,
excuse me. That
bless
always
you.
means that means it's true, by the way. That's the thing we have
Oh.
every time you sneeze, and I don't have an allergy or anything. It means it's true.
Uh,
So whenever you're saying it, very true.
well, thank you. And and for instance, as we are, let's say, through our geometrical body, when we are walking, passing by those geometries, we as an antennas start to create resonance, even if we're not aware of that. So
Yeah.
therefore, we are already connecting to that egregor, regardless the intention of it. So this is why, as you were saying, you know, like clearing, being very aware, you know, like knowing ourselves. Okay,
Mhm.
so I'm feeling something here, something here. Is this organic, non-organic? Okay, then doing something about it. And as you were also saying, while we're doing our light language, it's super important. Like you can even like create a field with the very same light language,
Yep.
you know, and you can use the geometry if you
Mhm.
want, because that's where we are heading to. That's where we are already at.
Yeah. It's all, I think it's all about that. The geometry, the shapes, the tones, the symbols, the colors, all the colors, sound, vibration is what we're made of. So it's like, if we think
Exactly.
it's really all okay, like it's all okay because it's all of us. It's the matrix that we're made of. We're made of sound, light, color. It comes from upper dimensions. Then it comes all the way down into our third dimension that creates our physical form. I mean, we already know this now. So it's kind of like we are the form It's just that we are, in this bodysuit that we don't, it's like, okay, we have this bodysuit, but if you take away the bodysuit, what actually created this bodysuit? The cells,
Yeah.
the DNA, the spiral energy, the cells, which are spiral, the DNA, which is spiral, like everything spiral. So we're all created by the very geometries that a lot of us are afraid of. That's what's the dichotomy. It's like, that's
Yeah,
what, and that's on purpose. That is on purpose
exactly.
for us to not do that. But we have to kind of get past that, in my view.
Exactly.
And I think
Because
overall, my view is that light codes don't really teach, but they remind us of what was already there that was spoken in silence, okay? In the quiet parts. That's really what ultimately I feel like the light code energy is, to sum that one up.
that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. For me, light language would be the pure transmission of the light that we are.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know? Yeah, the pure transmission of the light that we are. Even if you are speaking on behalf of the intergalactic community, or however you want to call it, or any other beings. But yet, as the universe functions through resonance, we cannot speak on behalf of anything that we're not in resonance with, regardless if it's from a space of love, if it's from a space of fear. This is why it's so important to know ourselves. And
Yeah.
you can ask yourself, how can speaking something that I don't know what it is can get me to know myself better? And this is the thing, because universe functions in such a wise forms that it won't give you in a linear form for this kind of purposes.
Yeah.
You need to go beyond the control
Mm-hmm.
in order to actually get to your own core
Yeah.
and open the universe that resides within, and chanting it. It's a superb form of doing that.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I think it's different for everyone, because not everyone's going to feel like they want to go chant or feel like they want to go do that. But I feel like it's important for people to realize that doing it your way, bringing forth your way. It doesn't mean that you have to do it our way. That's just what our one of our missions is, that, right? Like, our core mission is that. But for someone else, it might not be their core mission. And maybe they need to express themselves or their codes and their energies in a different way. And I feel like that's what it's all unique to each of us. Everybody's unique. Everyone's different with how they're bringing it forth, and to honor that, and just to know
yeah,
that, know thyself, right? Know yourself as
exactly.
much as you can. We're all still learning. We're all still growing and receiving more and more about who we really are individually, what our core gifts are, what we are here to bring to the planet. And that is a process of evolvement, a process of going in and diving in and really extracting the nature of who you are. What do you do? What do you shift around you? What happens when people walk into the room? How is it different? How does it, and you can see that way. Actually, sometimes it's easier to ask what other people feel that you do. If you don't know, you ask other people, because other people are going to perceive a little bit more about what you're shifting and how you're shifting the room or the whatever it is. And that gives you a really good indication as to how you are affecting the collective in your gift and what you are here to bring to the planet. So I know in my role, I'm here to help people to figure that out individually for themselves, not like duplicate what I'm doing in a way. It's really about what is your way.
Exactly.
That's why it was important for me when I, saw some people speaking light language that were doing light language courses that were teaching the way that they speak their light language. And I'm like, that's fine. But for me, it was more about, I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in making people mini me's, or copy me's. I'm more interested in
Exactly.
how are you going to, bring your energy forth, your expression. How does it want to come forth for you? And then obviously the way that I do it, or the building tools that I use to do that, can help people. But
Yeah.
I feel like it's really important because the integrity has to be there. That's really important to me, I feel, is integrity. I mean, I've seen a lot that, and I'm not naming names or anything, or just a judgment, I get it. But I do see some people that are out of integrity with that. And I feel like it's really important for us to honor, the genuine self and what you're here to bring in a very integrous way. That's so, think about our planet. Our planet, just in general, with a lot of people on the planet, are out of integrity. And I don't know that they really even realize it. So it's about coming back to your own integrative self, however that is for you.
Yeah, I fully agree because even with the courses that I facilitate, even though they are specific methods,
Yeah.
the way that I do, some people like are used to be told like step by step because we come from that place, we come
Yeah.
from a background that they would tell us specifically what to do. And codes don't work that way.
Yeah.
Not codes, not spoken codes, not light codes, because what I read about them and every code that I translate, it's actually to ignite your own mastership. So
Mm-hmm.
there are moments that they will even challenge you to bring in
Yeah.
that inner mastery, and that's beautiful. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful process because then it's an opportunity for you to be aware how far beyond were you from actually remembering that it's you that need to choose, where to and how to, when, what, and how, and
Yeah.
with whom, at a very deep level.
Yeah.
And, now that I'm saying the code behind you, before I ask what does it represent for you, which is
Yeah.
lovely, I love it.
Yeah. There's more in the
This is the
picture.
thing. This is the thing about, for instance, when we see the Latin language,
Mm-hmm.
the alphabets that we use now, they are caught. Yeah, the frequencies, pam pam pam,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and light language unifies the brain hemispheres. You can see all the writing that you have behind you. It's in motion. It's moving.
Yeah. It is
Something that
there's more in the
yeah,
picture that you can't see just because of the nature of the size of the screen here, because there's all sorts of light language at the top and the bottom. But yeah,
so beautiful.
embedding in it, and you do the same thing because I know that I've seen your art too. It's the same, kind of similar stuff here. But we
Yes.
do embed the codes into the images because it makes it alive more. I mean, not that it wasn't alive before the codes, but then when you add the codes to it, it actually gives it a whole different living experience. And that's why I just changed this on my website. So if you go to my website now, you see the first thing you see on my website is a living sigil, because that's how I see
Mm.
myself now. And I'm shifting
Mm.
some of my vibrations and some of my, I'm actually changing some of my titles even. Like I'm changing a lot right now. Like there's a lot that's going on right now, because
Yeah,
repositioning. I'm really moving into more of calling myself frequency architect, rather than just visual attunement artist. And there's a lot of shifts that are happening right now. But
I
the
agree.
codes are all like happening, it's just kind of like happening behind. But this is my psychic healing shield behind me. It's part of my seven different images that I have that are all shields. Partly, they're all shields. They all different things. This one is the psychic healing shield, and it does help to put the shield up around the mental field. This is your psychic and mental field, and it helps to really give you more of clarity, but also repel all of the static and the mental chatter, that, stagnation in the mental field, or scattered energies, scattered thoughts, those kind of things. It's really helpful for this.
Beautiful.
But I've actually developed a whole series of stuff that goes with the healing shields that are really powerful. and they really do activate your own power, your own empowerment. That's what they were designed to do, is to empower everybody in all realms. So the emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, galactic, it's like all in there. But I think that you're saying that, like, when you put the codes in and they move, it's like, yeah, I think if you look at it long enough, you can see things moving in it. You know, if you look behind the physical, tangible, you can see the things moving. And I think a lot of us, like you and like me, we like to do portals, right? Because everything's a portal.
Yes,
So a lot of portals are in
exactly.
our artwork and different things. That's because that's really what we're doing. We're allowing ourselves to go into different portals, opening different portals within our own being. And it's just so cool. You know, I really appreciate, you know, coming into touch with you, because I don't actually come across that many people myself that do very similar stuff like we do. It's really, I'm
Yes,
not saying that it isn't, because I know other people do. I'm just not always in touch with those people that are doing the art, the voice, the toning, and the light language all in one. And it's really nice to, you know, sometimes you feel like you're just like an island, you know, on yourself, like doing it. It's nice to like
I know, I
be
know.
connected. It's like, oh, another person that does this. It's like, yeah, you get it. Like, you know, in a way, in a different way. You know, I know all of the people that watch you and people that like my stuff, like they like us because of that. They like the energy that they get from it, and that they also expands and opens them. But it's just really nice to come into, it's like family, you know, in a whole different way.
Definitely.
And yeah, so that's really cool, and I love that.
Yeah, likewise. This is why I got so excited when I re-encounter with you and also seeing all your work, which I appreciate a
Yeah.
lot, a
Yeah. Well,
lot.
you likewise. I have your shirt. You gave me this beautiful shirt that I have.
Yeah.
I don't wear it because, oh, well, you know, menopause has made me come a little bit larger than I used to be, but I use it like I have it right by my, like across from my bed, so that every morning it's actually folded where I could see the image of it, the 0
Oh,
point, and I can
beautiful.
see it
Yes,
every single day. It's right there just so I can have it. So it's kind of a reminder, you know, of the link of the energy, but also just the beauty of it is beautiful. So
well, the
yeah,
one that you gave to me, I have it next to my bed in my drawer.
yeah, I
So,
saw it when I
yeah.
saw that one. I was like, oh my god, that looks just like her. And it was created for a client, but it's like it was like look like her, but you guys look alike. So there's a very similarity there. And I was just like, yeah. So for those of you guys, we were at the event, and we traded, you know, a gift for each, or a gift for a gift. And but it was really a nice exchange. And I really enjoyed, you know, talking to Sean a lot too, because he has such, you know, beautiful energy, and all the things that you guys do together just sounds so exciting. You live a very exciting life, and it's kind of like the you know, the movie, like it's like a movie, you know, like Indiana Jones movie is what your life is like. So exciting.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, we're having an upcoming trip to Mexico. If you want to, you
Oh,
can still join. I know you're very busy, but Saib, who has commented on the uh,
oh,
which
the
comment
mental
is
healing.
on the,
Yes,
yeah,
thank you.
she's coming.
The
And
psychic healing
yeah,
shield.
it's going to,
Yeah.
yeah, we like, speaking of which, you know, like we're going to very interesting places, powerful ones. Actually, we will be activating big part of that code that it's on the top, in the right top of the screen, you know, which
Mhm.
is the omnivision key, because huge messages have
Yeah.
come through. You know, it's like all this network was
Mhm.
being planted and now needs to be reactivated, because it's bringing unity consciousness into
That's
the field.
powerful.
Yeah, and I will be talking about this in the conference, because you see, it's like even like the pyramids were built and configured to this network, you know,
Oh, yeah.
and it's the nexus. And of course, then later on, other kings and put other imprints on the pyramids, as in everywhere.
Yeah.
But you know, like the main purpose, because they knew what it would come. So it's like I love the beauty of time. I don't know how about you, but it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, defining past, present, and future is like at some point
it's all
pointless.
the
It
same.
can give
All
a
the
little
same.
bit of tranquility to the ego, but it's like,
I know it's all happening at the same time. So we're kind of like, it's like I was doing these activations, Egypt activations, but they're not. I'm not in Egypt, but I'm doing the activations here. But my own type of
yeah,
activation for that, and I was feeling like really like I was there. And that's why I say that the time doesn't exist. It's like when you do an activation, it doesn't mean you have to be there in person because you can
no,
really go there yourself. But it's obviously good to go, especially with you guys with your excavations. That's kind of unique and stuff. To go
we
like
will be
live.
going to Egypt next year
Oh, you are
if
going
you
to
want to
this year.
join.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean it's powerful. So yeah, I mean to go, I would I'd highly encourage people to go with these guys because they know the down low and they know what they're doing,
thank you,
and
thank
that
you.
must be really exciting. Did you go to Peru or have you done Peru?
Not yet, but
Um,
soon because it has been coming into the field like a lot. So
yeah, I think Peru is going
yeah,
to be your next one after that, but or something. That's
yes, it
really
has
cool.
been brought up lately a lot.
Yeah,
Well, this is the thing, as you said, it's not like we need to go physically. If you have the opportunity, then go for it. Otherwise, again, space, time, it's like,
it doesn't.
you can just anchor your energy,
Yeah,
connect into that, and already bring codes because each
yeah,
one is doing something specific at the moment,
yeah, for
and that's
sure.
the beauty. Yeah, and that's the beauty. For instance, in the codes, it's like your codes. You don't have a letter battling with another one or arguing with another one because it wants to take its position. It's like, okay, I'm here.
Let it be, right? Just let it be. Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
exactly,
and that's what I
exactly.
feel like. It's so, I don't travel well. I have, that's one thing in this life. I mean, I did a lot of traveling when I was younger, but then I kind of had this inner ear thing that happened, and then I just get really like travel sick, and so it's just not fun. I don't get fearful of flying. I just have this inner ear thing that makes it cause just some travel sickness, and it's just not fun to travel anymore. So I decided that, for me, it's more about I can do it here, from anywhere
Yeah,
and tune into those places that I even haven't been, like Greece would be one that I really wanted to, haven't done yet, but, I just did some in Egypt, but Greece is another one I want to tune into and really like, because I have some past life there and experiences there. And so I really want to do that, but I feel like everybody can do that. You really can. I mean, it's just so like, I don't know, just like become more second nature now.
yeah. Well, the thing is, you're doing something very specific there where you are at right now. Like you're really
Yeah, we're really
anchored
in
to the
it
land,
too,
doing
being in Sedona.
something very important. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, we're
definitely.
living in a, it's like I'm living in Sedona. So I'm already living in a crystalline city hotspot as it is, and that
Yeah, I
really
love
plugs
Sedona.
into all the other hotspots. So there's energy loops and different things that you can pull into there that actually, coincide here. The sister cities, the crystalline light cities. So I feel like because of that, it makes it so that it's even more so I don't necessarily have to go travel a whole bunch, because of
Yeah,
that. It's
and you're doing like a very important thing there. Very, very important. I love Sedona.
yeah.
I told Sean I want to live there at some point.
Yeah, it's
So
I would love
anyway,
that would be great. But it's
yeah,
definitely different. I've been here for 15 years. So it's not an easy place to live, I will say. It's more expensive, obviously, for sure, than anywhere. That's one thing that's not super great about it is the cost of living here. But it is I've gone through so much here, from when I started till now. It's really
yeah,
expanded a lot,
a lot of
for me. It's
growth.
brought a lot forth for me, and it's been super supportive in a lot of ways. And I feel like it's
Yeah,
just for me, it feels like home. This is home. This is home base for me. So if I ever did go somewhere else, I mean, I don't want to, but once I got here, you know, and I've lived in other places too. You know, I lived in California for a lot of times. I lived in Colorado for like 15 years, and then living here. And so I have lived other places in other states, but once I got here, it was just like, yeah, see, highly recommend YssaH, of course. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
it's been home, and I feel like it's home for a lot of us Starborn that, you know, congregate here too, because we feel a lot of family. You know, I've connected with Rion and Team Light and all that, you know, through
Yeah.
here very long ago, early on, before he was doing what he was doing. You know, we were all connected in the very beginning. So it's been like a family, you know, kind of energy here. And it's hard to leave that. So we'll see, but we'd love for you guys to come out here if you
This
can.
is what I'm saying, you know, as soon as I got there, it was like, yay, you know, like felt home
Yeah.
definitely. And there are a lot of things that will be happening and that will be going on, you know, like in such important vortexes places as Sedona is. I felt the frequency very much alike to Sinai, which is, you know, like the purity of the vortex,
Yeah.
whatever you are, it's going to expand it.
Oh
So
God.
you're better resonating in love and coming from a space of love because then you will be amplifying that.
Yeah. Everything
Yeah,
amplifies here. So if you're not ready to do your work, which, you know, you're not, I mean, you are, because obviously, but there's a lot of people that come here and they just hate it, or they get spit out, like they say, like a lot of things happen and they just can't be here anymore for whatever reason. And it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just means that the energy is pretty extreme. I mean, you have
yeah,
to be really like aware of yourself and what's going on, and be willing to shift and change a lot of your stuff. Okay. The stuff that you need to shift and change. And you have to be willing to do that. Otherwise, you're going to have a more difficult time here. Everything is a lot more amplified and a lot more in your face. I say it's almost like you go through the washing machine here. Like it's a constant, like kind of vortex where you just kind of sometimes go around the washing machine a lot. And then you do end up going out, and, you know, you end up getting out of the washing machine, you hang out for a while, you upgrade, and then you may have to go through another washing machine again. It's like, it's a cycle, it's a spiral, it's a vortex. So that is
yeah,
what you're going to do, but it is always moving up. I mean, I can see, like, I can't even believe where I am at with who I am, what I'm doing from where I started 15 years when I first got here. I mean, total like 180 degrees from the corporate world, you know, in construction and restoration, and like nothing to do forensic engineering, to this
wow.
is a whole different world. It's just not even the same. So I feel like I've lived like 10 lifetimes just in the last like 15 years.
Yes, yes,
And I
yes,
probably have. So,
definitely,
you know,
definitely.
but I think it's definitely an interesting place to be, and a lot of things happen here. So, but anyway, I know
Yeah.
if you guys end up coming here, we will be welcoming you with open arms.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Likewise to our heart, to my heart. And so, you know, speaking about vortexes and light codes, well, I do believe that the codes are that, you know, receptors, emitters, they're just generating huge shifts within, you know, they can suit you very well, you know, as long as you are, you know, in that receptive and letting everything flow. Because again, we are talking about non-linear technology. So the level of consciousness where they're coming from moves differently than when we try to control things,
Oh
you
yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Control
so
is not something that is going to be your friend in any way, shape, or form. When you try to control, it's
yeah.
not going to work out so great.
It's like trying to control a unicorn. Don't
Oh
do
yeah.
that.
I mean, you're like, try, but it's based upon, you know, we always have a saying around here, it's God's time, not your time, you know, divine time. You kind of have to let that be a part of it. What you think was supposed to be about your life, what you feel, you know, sometimes you don't really see the big picture, and that the divine has a whole different idea for you. which is really about you, but you just might be laser focused over here, like going, I'm supposed to do this,
Yeah.
and yet it's like really, there's a whole other picture that is coming forth. Yeah, let love rule. Love that. So true. Because love is
Yes,
really who we are. That's at the basis of everything. And so that is like, couldn't have said it better right there. But I think
exactly.
we're gonna be seeing a lot of shifts and changes in the spiritual community in terms of what I feel, what's coming in terms of that new, like, we think it's one thing, but God is like, you're bigger than that. You're more than that. And not in an ego way, but just in a, okay, you're more than who you think you are. But I feel like, because as these codes are going to come more and more, glyphs are going to be coming more, symbols will be coming more, and we will, what I feel, I spoke about this at the conference, where I feel we're going is that we become the actual symbol, the glyph, the energy of that, and that we end up going, our essence ends up showing up before you say, hi, my name is LightStar, or hi, my name is YssaH. Like, it's going to show up as the code, very much in similar tone, like Prince. I use that example of Prince because he came, he went with that code, and that's going to proceed. And that's where I see the trajectory of us going, is in that realm where we are preceded by our own code, our own matrix that may shimmer and change, but it kind of has this general, everyone's got kind of a unique little code.
Yeah, this
No,
is what I call
yeah,
source code, and I translate them.
yeah,
I read
yeah.
them in
That's
in
what
in people. I translate them. Yeah,
yep,
because for me it's
this is great.
fundamental
Yep,
to gain your sovereignty, because then you remove your barcode,
yeah,
your barcode, and you are restoring your connection to your arc.
yep.
So yeah,
Well,
I
there's
definitely
the
see it's
codes,
like
they're
your
probably
cosmic
called,
fingerprint.
I know. It's like probably calling it something else. It's just that when I do it, it's when I draw and hand draw symbols and codes for someone that's coming through their stream or whatnot. I call it the core glyph frequency activation, where it's coming through. But I do feel this is just this is the nature of where we're all going. Okay, not just
I'm
us,
so
but like
excited.
everyone. So it's like, we might be the forefront of it. We might be the ones that are showing it and have to show it first before people go, oh, where you're standing out into the field going, in the island saying like, okay, I guess I'm going to be doing this. Whereas everyone will catch up to that eventually. But I mean, how many times I hear this a lot about me, like, you're ahead of your time. I've heard that so much because you're misunderstood about like everything that you do, and yet you're just being called to do it anyway, and you have to
Mhm.
stand out there in the rain by yourself, just be like, okay, I'm doing this, and be okay with that. And that takes courage and strength, but everyone is going to have their own tests with doing something similar, I think, in their own ways. But
Yeah,
some of us have really had to just put it all out there and let the chips fall where they may. But that's really how we're the ones that are bearing the path there for all of this to be possible, because once people see it, they go, oh, okay. But if you didn't see it, you wouldn't know it's possible. So some of us are being called to do that, to be like the examples.
yes.
And that means trial and error for us too. We're trying, sometimes okay, that didn't work out so great, and that's okay. But we're part, human, part human too, here, and we're all going through this together. So,
Yes, 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 and that's something very important, like to humbly acknowledge that we are all in the path of remembrance at different gradients, experiencing it. When we generate that empathy to actually receive and emanate from that truth, then again, we're just here all remembering, and that involves a lot of things. So, yeah, different gradients, but remembering, indeed. And, you know, um, yeah, so for me, I have been told that I come from the other side of the black hole. Instead of, like coming ahead of time, it's like, no, you're coming from the other side of the
Yeah,
line.
it's like wherever I mean, I'm not even from this universe, so for me, it's kind of like, okay, you feel like you dropped off here, and you're just like, oh, this place is weird. I mean, I've had to do a lot of adjustments just to this energy. A lot of star seeds feel that way anyway, just because they're not really from this earth. But some of us don't even feel like we're from this universe at all, and it's very different for me to assimilate. Do the best I can to uh, work with it. But it's a very dense energy here. It's a very dense, polluted planet for the moment. Not that it's going to always be that way, but it definitely
Yeah,
feels like it's been hard for a lot of us to deal with this place because it's heavy and the dense energy, and our energies are so light, and then they come down here, and it's like we have to really like do a lot of work to get to shine the light in the midst of all the darkness. But like, if you're coming from the darkness, it's okay to be there too, because you're more, it's like the void, right? So if we're in the
yeah,
void, we have to be comfortable being in that void too, and working with the shadow energies as well here. We have a lot to do. That's why I created the shields, right? To like, we have to do a lot of shielding, for our own energies here. And it's not so
yeah.
easy for those of us that feel so much like lighter, that we don't even have form, or we're not even
I know. I know that that's another topic, like that's another huge topic.
yeah.
But, yeah, anyways, yeah, I do believe that the codes are actually doing a huge work in rising and accelerating the
Yeah.
frequency, the light emission waves.
I do feel
And
so much like that is such a good point, because I feel like the acceleration is going to happen because of that, because of this been in this density heaviness so long, that's why so much more of the codes and the languages than the symbols are going to be coming forth to help with that and accelerate us faster out of it, because we can't be in this dense place this long, and I
it's
think
time.
we want to bear the path for the new ones coming in, so that they don't have it as difficult too. We want to have them the sparkling diamonds that they are, coming in, and have
Yeah.
them have a easier time of things, I suppose.
Because they have it so simple. They are even drawing, and the way that they touch reality, they're already drawing codes.
Yeah.
They're all configuring codes, like the space, the plasma, the Planck's plasma. They're already doing it. We just need to support and
Yeah.
sustain their way of perceiving reality. And
Yeah.
look, as much as I would love to continue talking,
I know you have to go.
yeah, I have to go, but um,
So
thank you so much for being here in this show with me. Some words that you would like to say to the audience, besides giving also the details where people can reach you.
yeah, I just want to say thank you to all of you guys being here, watching, whoever's gonna be watching it later. I'm so honored. Thank you so much, YssaH, for having me here. And just the conversation, that was just so refreshing and beautiful. And I hope you guys all felt it too. You guys are all a part of the family here. And we really love you guys too. We honor all of your paths. We honor who you are, and we just really love you. And yes, you can find me and work with me with my art and music, sound codes, and sessions at lightstarcreations.com. So you'll be able to see that on my site. You can also go to my contact page on there, which also shows you every place else I am, like YouTube channel and all of my social media and all the things that I have to offer, which is a lot, because I've got a lot of things to offer with sessions, music, merch, all different kinds of things that you can find on there. And but yeah, that's it. I just really want to say thank you. I'm so honored, and it was just a blessing to have this conversation with you, YssaH. Thank you.
Oh, likewise, likewise, beloved. I honor you and acknowledge the amazing and remarkable work that you're doing. I feel with which I feel in deep resonance with. and looking forward to a next gathering, talking more about this.
Yeah.
Perhaps the next one we can do it in light language.
Yeah,
And
that would
then,
be great. Yeah, we'll do that.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
For
yes.
living
It will
souls.
be awesome to see, like
Yeah,
what people
both of us doing
experience through it.
that. That would be
Yes,
fun. We'll have
yes,
to do that
yes,
again
a
for sure.
lot. Okay,
Right.
and
Well,
well,
thanks to you
yeah,
and also
thank
to Sean.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And if you still want, like anyone who's watching this transmission, you're still on time to join us in the Full Disclosure Now conference. Actually, we're now in Florida. We begin today, meet and greet, but tomorrow it will officially open. We will be presenting tomorrow, so that's very exciting.
Nice.
And speaking of memory retrieval and ET artifacts, how to activate them, we also have upcoming, well, the upcoming conferences, presentations, the Alien event, and the Bridge Expo in Dallas, the trip to Mexico. So you know where to reach me, and if not, then I will be writing. I always write the information. It's like it's light words, so then sometimes it's kind of complicated to say. Yeah, HUNUH slash ACNA. So if you want to, but anyway, thank you so much. Thank you, Lightstar, again. I love you, and talk to you soon. And thank you, everyone. See you soon. And stay tuned for all the upcoming information that we'll be sharing and that I will be sharing from this event. Um, Thank you seriously for doing, and I was so excited. I could stay hours
I
talking to
know
you
we could
as
talk.
well when I was but anyway.
That's
Okay,
awesome.
thank you
Like
so much. Love you.
heart to heart, sister. And
Yes,
thank you. We'll talk again soon. Thank you to your whole
sure.
audience for having patience on this longer episode. But thank you for everyone being here.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.